my bunnies, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing another worst manga ever review. This one is a little bit different because it's only 5 chapters long, and it's called Socrates in Love. I kind of chose this one because it intrigued me right off the bat. When I saw the comment in the Reddit thread, it said that the art was barely above stick figure level and that it read like a rejected K-drama. And I thought that was really weird, especially when I looked at the manga itself and saw it was only 5 chapters. And I was like, how could anyone find a manga that's that short to be the worst manga they ever read? Now, I'm also someone who really actually likes K-dramas. I think they're quite good, and I like sappy kind of romance novels. So this kind of actually appealed to me, and spoiler alert, I actually kind of like this manga. So we're gonna go through it just like I did with Gecko and see how it is. So our main character is a guy named Sakutaru, and the manga starts out with him, first chapter, saying that his girlfriend died and he is going to Australia to spread her ashes. And basically right after that, we are thrown into a flashback of when Sakutaru meets his girlfriend when they first meet in middle school. So Sakutaru is forced to become like the class rep with another girl named Aki as like the boy and girl class reps. They're forced into it, and Aki is immediately a very cheerful girl, where Saku's a little bit more, like, sullen, and they kind of just hit it off right away, with Aki's cheerful demeanor kind of bringing Saku out of his shell a little bit. And basically right after that, let's keep in mind that this is a 5-chapter long manga, so things happen very quickly. Right after that, they get news that a teacher of theirs just died, and it happens to be Aki's favorite teacher. So they go to the funeral, and Aki is going to do like a eulogy kind of thing. During this funeral, there is a like punk kind of delinquent kind of kid named Uki who mentions something about how he's glad that the teacher is dead because he didn't like her anyway. And Saku stands up for Aki and is just like, hey, you shouldn't say that about someone who just died. That's really rude of you. That doesn't sound like it's important, but he will come into play later, so keep a pin in that. But after that, we are going to fast forward to high school. So Saku and Aki are now in high school, and they're kind of just like really good friends. They're not dating yet. And I actually had a hard time figuring out the age that they were at this point, because there's never any like a time frame that when these time skips happen, it's like, when is it? Well, so I believe they are in their last year-ish of high school. They're either like second to last or last year, so they're like 17, 18. But Saku enjoys going over to his grandfather's house and drinking, which was another part that confused me about his age at this point, because high school students don't normally just get together with their grandfather and drink, so I didn't know how old he was. But he's in high school, and so his grandfather tells him a story about how when he was a kid, or when he was in high school, the grandfather was in love with a girl. And the girl was from a very rich family, and the grandfather was pretty poor, and the girl had tuberculosis and she was going to die. So the grandfather spent so much time collecting money in order to like get her a cure for it. I'm not sure that there's actually a cure for tuberculosis, but suspension of disbelief, sure. He was raising all this money for her treatment, and after all of that, they were still forbidden to be together. So essentially, the girl marries another man, and they just live out their lives unhappily fulfilled, I guess. So the grandfather kind of like keeps this grudge, kind of, not really a grudge, but he keeps his love for her still for ever. And apparently she has just died. So the grandfather tells Saku to help him rob her grave because he wants some of her ashes. And Saku actually has kind of a head on his shoulders for once and goes, no, that's illegal, I'm not doing that. So he goes to Aki the next day and he tells her this story, and Aki gets kind of mad at him. He's like, why won't you help your grandfather help, like, with his one true love or whatever? And he's like, well, alright, fine, I guess I have no choice. So essentially the grandfather and Saku go to this woman's grave and breaks into it and steals some of her ashes, like a little bit. And the grandfather gives the ashes to Saku and is like, I'm gonna have you hold on to these so that when I die, you can mix our ashes together and we'll be together forever. And Saku's like, I'm not doing that. Please don't make me do that. And his grandfather basically makes him do it anyway. But this whole exchange really just gives him the strength, I guess, to confess to Aki that he likes her and that he wants to date her. And that's essentially what he does. He goes to school the next day and he's like, hey, I robbed that grave with my grandfather like you told me to. You want to be my girlfriend? And she says yes. So there you go. So I think this is like a year later we are put into. So I believe they were 16 during that time. I think they might be 17 or 18 now. Again, it's hard to say. Doesn't really matter except for the fact that they're in high school or about to graduate high school. There we go. So we are thrust ahead about like a year-ish in time where Saku is just kind of like in his classroom and he meets Uki again, the delinquent from his childhood. And they are talking about just stuff in general. I guess they haven't connected in a while. So Uki kind of mentions, he's like, oh, you and Aki have been dating for a while, so like you guys are probably doing pretty good. Like you guys having sex yet? And Saku's like, no, I don't want to disrespect Aki. She's not ready. Like, it's cool. And Uki's kind of just like, come on, man. It's been like forever. So they come up with a plan that since Uki's family owns a like crab boat or something, that they will take this boat to an island that used to be a resort, but it's abandoned now. But, like, the hotel is still there. There's just no electricity, but, like, beds are there and whatnot. They're like, we'll go there. I'll leave. Uki's gonna leave. And you guys can just, like, have at it. Because you'll be on an abandoned island overnight. It'll be great. So they basically trick Aki into thinking that they're going on a double date with Uki and his girlfriend. But then, you know, she doesn't show up. But they go to the island anyway, and Uki's like, oh, sorry, I got an emergency, I gotta leave. So, there they go. Saku and Aki are now on an island all by themselves. And it's starting to get dark, so Saku's like, hey, let's, like, go to the hotel and sleep. And when they get there, Aki's basically just like, you know, if you wanted to just have sex, you could have just told me. You didn't have to trick me here. And Saku feels really bad about it. And it's okay because I guess they have sex anyway. It's fine. But basically in the middle of the night, Saku wakes up and Aki is gone. And he's like, oh no. He gets into like a weird mindset where he's so afraid of doing anything wrong towards Aki. Like if he makes one slight to her, that she'll just leave him, which is a very unhealthy way to be in a relationship. You know, people make mistakes. You have to trust that they're not going to leave you for them, you know, if they're minor, you know? And he goes into, like, even a weird, like, state of, like, oh no, she left me, and I can't live without her. Yeah, they've been together for a while, but that was still, like, a really weird thing. But then he decides to get up and go looking for Aki, and he finds out that she is just, like, in the hallway, And there's no lights in this hotel, like I said. So instead, there's fireflies everywhere. And this part is not important, but it was a part where I was reading the manga and I got to this page and I have to include it. Aki's in the middle of a hallway and she's just like, look at these fireflies. Aren't they beautiful? There's so many of them. And this is the picture that accompanies that. It is so bad. I looked at it like, these aren't fireflies. This is not how you would draw fireflies. Even in the manga world, I've seen fireflies, like a filter kind of thing being put over it. This is just paint splatter. That's all. It looks so bad. And I'm not going to criticize the art of this too much. I've seen far worse art, and I consider myself to be a bit of an art snob when it comes to manga. If I don't like the art, I'm not going to read the manga. This isn't that bad. I can deal with this. But this page in particular I thought was just really bad and I really wanted to show it. But moving on, we're now going to go 3 months in the future. And Aki's in the hospital now. And Saku basically lets us know, as the narrator, that after that whole trip, she was fine for a bit, and then Aki just got sick. And so she's been in the hospital for a bit. So she's in the hospital, and what he's told she has is something called aplastic anemia. I had to write that down, and I don't know what that means, but that's what she has. And she's been in the hospital, and they have, like, very weird rules revolved around, like, seeing her, because Saku goes to see her every day, but, like, he's basically got to, like, suit up in, like, a hazmat suit, like he's prepping for surgery. I guess her immune system is so bad that, like, you can't let any germs in at all. So, like, they can't kiss and stuff, so they make jokes about that. But that's what he's told she has, and she's keeping a pretty cheery demeanor about it, and everything seems to be just fine-ish. But then one day he goes to the hospital, and as he's at the vending machine getting some food or whatever you get out of vending machines, he overhears Aki's mom, and I think it's her aunt, talking. And they basically just reveal that even though they're telling Aki that she has a plastic anemia, whatever it is, she actually has leukemia and that she's dying. Aki is being told that she has anemia, aplastic anemia. I don't know why I can't get that out. Even though she has aplastic anemia, she actually has leukemia, and that she is essentially dying. But they're not telling Aki that because they don't want her to think that she's dying and kind of give up the fight. So that's why she seems to be getting sicker, like she's losing her hair, she's throwing up a lot because she's going through chemotherapy, but she doesn't know it. So Saku overhears this, and he doesn't know what leukemia is, so he goes to the library and checks out all these books and figures out what leukemia is, and he's like, wow, it's really terrible, she's basically dying, but he doesn't tell her. And that was good enough. I actually like that. But then it's a little bit ruined because basically a page later, he's pulled aside by Aki's mom and told to his face that she actually has leukemia and not aplastic anemia. And I wish they had just done one or the other. Either his mom reveals it or he learns it on his own. Not both. But that's a minor thing. Whatever. So she basically is like, don't tell Aki, we want her to fight as long as possible. But Aki is getting more and more miserable because she's sick. Chemotherapy has a tendency to make her really sick. And, you know, she's losing her hair and she's not feeling so great about that. And she's just generally feeling pretty bad. At the same time, Saku's class is going on a class trip soon to Australia, which is extravagant. I didn't know that there were school trips that went to other countries, but sure. So they're super excited about going on it, but Aki is saying that obviously she won't be able to go because she's sick, but they're super excited. And Saku makes a promise to her that he's going to take her to Australia. She still doesn't know that she's dying. So I'm gonna take you eventually, kind of thing. So now that he knows that she has very, little time to live, and she's basically under lock and key at this hospital, and there's, no way of taking her, he comes up with a grand plan that he's gonna break her out of the hospital and take her to Australia. And he's, working super hard to get it, and he has, all these plans of, okay, we're gonna go this day, and we're gonna sneak out this way. He's got, a whole escape plan going. But then he has a problem with money. He can't get the money situation figured out. He can't save enough. So he decides to go to his grandfather. Now this is also a weird part because, this grandfather, this is the same grandfather that had him as a 16-year-old help him rob a grave for his dead girlfriend. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if he explains the situation to his grandfather, why he needs the money, that should be fine, right? Because his grandfather already made him do crazy stuff for love in the past. Can't the grandfather return the favor? Well, apparently not. Saku does go to his grandfather and is like, hey, I need this money, but I can't tell you why. And he's basically thinking that because he doesn't want the grandfather to ask him or, deter him from doing this crazy idea. This is the same grandfather that made him rob a grave, so I don't think anything would be far-fetched at that point. But whatever. The grandfather gets kind of mad at him, but in the end is like, well, your grandma, left you, a bunch of money, so I'm gonna give you that. Have fun with whatever it is that you're doing. And it's all well and good. So they go along with the plan. They escape the hospital. They are on the train. And I think it's Aki's birthday, too, at the same time. So they have, a cake. And everything's okay. They're on the train. They're almost home free. They get to the airport. And as they are going in there, Aki collapses. And she is in very critical condition. She's taken back to the hospital. And she's essentially dying. And they have a very heartfelt goodbye, and Aki dies. And now we go back to present day that we got in the first chapter, where Saku he's actually with Aki's parents, and they are going to Australia because they knew that she wanted her ashes to be spread there. So the three of them go to Australia to do that. There isn't any complications there. It happens. And Saku is basically just left for the rest of his life hearing her voice on the wind from when he scattered her ashes, and just generally feeling sad about Aki, but being comforted in the fact that he can hear her voice. And then, as it turns out, he's telling all of this to his current girlfriend that apparently he got together with because Aki's wind voice told him to talk to that girl over there. And his girlfriend is totally cool with this. And there are no issues. And basically, after he had released her ashes to the wind, he had actually kept a little bit in a locket, and he was like, I think it's okay to let her go completely now, and let's go with the rest of the ashes. And the book ends. And that is it. If it felt like I was going through this really fast, it's because everything happens that fast. And nothing of consequence really happens. It really is just a slice of life. Here's what happens, here's my story. And it just in short little tidbits. And I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. Given how short it is, it took me maybe a day to read, and twice to record this video, so yeah. Anyway, so it doesn't take very long to read, so it's not really of any consequence. Even if you waste a couple hours in reading it, if you didn't like it, then that's fine. But I wouldn't call it the worst thing ever. It's not that bad. Maybe it's because I like sappy K-pop, dramas like that. But I don't think it was that bad. And if you want to, feel free to check it out. Obviously, you were just taken through the entire story. I didn't leave anything out because there wasn't really anything to leave out, unlike Gecko. So, check it out if you want. If not, there is no consequence because it's kind of a nothing. It's fine, but it's not the greatest thing, but it's not the worst thing ever. So, but that's it. That's all. I need to get started reading the next bad manga. If you follow me on Twitter, I may have mentioned that I have a promotion at my job, so I have a little bit less time to work with now. So, videos might be a little bit slower at coming out. Still working on the light novel audiobooks. Like I said, my microphone broke, so I'm having issues figuring out how to make the audio sound okay. We're working on it, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!